So remember, a real zero is where it crosses or touches the x-axis. So if I zoom in here, notice we have an x-intercept in 3 places. Does everyone see that? So it's one at -3, -2, and +1. So that's where we have, so it has 3 real zeros, and the real zeros are at -3, 0, -2, 0, and +1, 0. So when you write your equation in factor form, make 3 parentheses. Because there's 3 real zeros, you're going to have 3 factors. So every factor, every zero gets its own factor. I am sweating. Okay, so we're going to put an X in front of each one. And then we just flip the sign. So if we have a 0 at -3, then what am I going to put here? What's the opposite of -3? +3. So put a +3 in the first parentheses. In the second parentheses, instead of a -2, I'm going to put a +2. And in the last one, instead of a +1, I'm going to put a -1. Now the other thing is, notice how for this one, it bounces off of the axis. That looks like a parabola. That means that at that intercept, it's doubled. So because it bounces, that last factor has to be squared. Okay, any questions? So go ahead and take out your notes. We're going to do one old school division problem. Going back to the day. Go to page 15. We're going to review how to do long division. So page 15. We're only going to do one of these. All right, so we're going to review long division like you learned in elementary school. Although I feel like you might have learned it different. This is how I learned it back when I was in elementary school. But I'm not sure if this is how you learned it when you were in elementary school, because time has changed. All right, so we're going to divide 3 into 219. So the first thing we would do is see, well, does the 3 go into 2? Can 3 go into 2? No. So then we look at 3, can 3 go into 21? All right, so 3 goes into 21 how many times? 7. So we would put the 7 here. And then what would I do? After you did that, you would normally multiply, right? When you multiply the 7 times the 3. So 7 times 3 is 21, and we would put that here. And then would I add these together or would I subtract? Subtract. Raise your hand if you remember how to do division. Just curious, okay. And then you would just bring down the next term, which is a 9. And then you would ask, you would start the process over again. You would say, well, how many times does 3 go into 9? 3 goes, if you look at your multiplication chart, which you don't have to get it out at the time, but 3 goes into 9 3 times. And then you would take the 7 times 3, which is 9. You would subtract and get a remainder of 0. That is what we're going to do, except we're going to do it with polynomials, okay? So we're going to do a few of them, and we're going to actually spend this entire week, because this is the last thing you have to learn before you get your review and before you take your test next week, is how to divide. We've already talked about addition, subtraction, multiplication. We did some division yesterday. We did addition, subtraction, multiplication last week. We started with a little bit of division yesterday, but today we're going to do the real division, okay? So let's go ahead and get started. Go to page 18, and we're going to set this up. So the first thing I'm going to do is this x plus 4 goes on the outside. And then this polynomial goes underneath. Just like that. And we're going to do the same division that we just did. We divide, distribute, subtract. Those are our 3 steps. Divide, distribute, and subtract. So you always start off by dividing the first term by the first term. So off to the side, I'm going to take x squared, and I'm going to divide that by x. Just what you see underlined in red. We're going to divide that. If you take x squared divided by x, you get x. We're going to put that on the hood. And then step 2 is we're going to take the x that we just got and multiply it by the x plus 4. So when we multiply x times x plus 4, we get x squared plus 4x. So let's go ahead and line this up over here. But if you go back to the example we did from elementary school, we didn't add these together, we would subtract them. So in order to do subtraction, I want you to do a change. So what I mean by that is you're going to change both of your signs to the opposite. So notice how this is positive, we're going to make that negative. And then I'm also going to make this 4x negative. I'm going to change both of the signs. That's how you subtract. So what do you get when you take x squared minus x squared? What do you think that's going to give you? 0. Yep. So this cancels out. Now in your calculator, go ahead and add -5 plus -4. What's -5 plus -4? Or -5 minus 4? -9, good. So I have a -9x, I'm going to bring that, and then bring down this. And we're going to repeat the steps one more time. So I'm going to take the -9x. Now I'm dividing these two terms. I'm going to take -9x and divide it by x. So do -9x divided by x, and that gives you a -9. Put that -9 on the hood. And then you're going to take the -9 and multiply that by x plus 4. So -9, multiply that by x plus 4, you get -9x minus 36. But before, when you take this from here to here, when you go from here to here, we need to do a change. So instead of this being negative and a negative, I'm going to make it a plus and a plus, right? So I have a positive 9x and a positive 36. Both of these cancel, and I get a remainder of 0. And that's what you should get. You should get a 0. If you're doing your homework right, and when you do your test, if you do that right, you should get a 0. So that means that my factors are x plus 4 and x minus 9. So if x plus 4, set that equal to 0, and x minus 9, set that equal to 0, and you get x equals -4 and x equals +9. So that would be your solutions, and we're going to write that in this box, and I'll zoom back out in a minute. X equals -4, x equals +9, and that's how you do long division. And we're going to practice this the rest of the week. All right, any questions about the first one? All right, let's do another one. So let's set it up. X minus 3 goes on the outside. And then that long one goes on the inside. So we always start off by dividing. So we're going to divide this by this. So off to the side, take your 3x squared and divide it by x. What do you get when you take 3x squared divided by x? 3x. Yeah. Because what you're doing is you're taking 3 divided by 1, which is 3. And you're subtracting your exponent. So you get a 3x. That goes on the top. Step number 2. Take the 3x and multiply it by x minus 3. You always multiply whatever you got on the hood. You multiply about whatever was in front. So step 2, everybody take 3x and multiply it by x minus 3. Just write what you think it is. So you're going to take 3x times x and 3x times 3. So 3x times x is 3x squared. And 3x times -3 is -9x. So before we slide this over, we need to do a change. So do you see how this is positive and a negative? When I bring it over, I'm going to make this term negative and the second term positive. So I'm going to make it a negative 3x squared and a positive 9x. Okay, when we do that, this first term is always going to cancel out just like that. All right, so now let's go ahead in your calculator, add -16 plus 9. Go ahead and add that. -16, what did you say? -7 or +7? -7. Anyone else get -7? Okay, good. So we're going to put that, bring down that -7. Drop down the plus 21, and we're going to repeat this one more time. This time, I'm going to divide -7x by x. You're always dividing it by this term. So let's take that -7x, divide that by x, and we get -7. Put that -7 on the hood. And then take the -7 and multiply it by x minus 3. and you get negative 7x plus 21. And when you slide it over, though, we have to do a change. Do you see how this is negative and that's positive? So this is going to become a positive, and the 21 becomes negative. Do we end with a 0? Because they should both cancel out. So are these both going to cancel? So negative 7 plus 7 is 0. 21 minus 21 is 0. So we end up with my happy 0 at the end. So your last step is to set this one equal to 0, and then also set what's on the hood equal to 0. So go ahead off to the side, take x minus 3, set that equal to 0, and then 3x minus 7. One of your answers will be a fraction and the other one will not. So for your first one, you're going to add the 3. Oops. So for the first one, we're going to add 3. So we get x equals 3. So I'm going to write that over here in this box. X equals 3. For the second one, though, I have to add 7. And I have to divide by 3. So x equals 7/3. And that would be your final answer. All right, so I'm not asking if we all can do this on the test next week, but thumbs up if you understand the steps, if you're following the steps. Thumbs up, sideways, like where we at. Okay, this is new, completely new. So that's why we're going slow. We're going to do one more, then we're in for today. All right, because these are the easier ones. Now they do get a little harder, but we'll talk about that tomorrow. Okay, and the reason why it's not even harder, do you notice how like we only have to do this little step twice? We have to do, I call this my little recipe. We only have to do the recipe twice because this is a 2nd degree. But if you look in your notes, we will get to a 3rd degree, and we'll have to do it 3 times. All right, so let's do one more. Let's set it on up, y'all. 3x plus 7 goes on the outside. And then 15x squared minus 1x minus 84 is under the hood. So we got to start by dividing 15x squared by 3x. So everybody do that off to the side. Take 15x squared and divide that by 3x. And figure out what's going to go on the board. You're dividing the numbers, subtracting the exponents, and you are correct. That number goes on the hood. So who else got 5x? All right, good. So we're going to put that on the hood. And then we're going to take that 5x and multiply it by what's in front. So you got 5x times 3x plus 7. And that gives you 15x squared plus 5x times 7 is 35x. Then slide it over. But remember, when you slide it to the left, you got to do a change. We got to change both signs. So do you see how this is positive and this is positive? We're going to change them both to a negative and a negative. So that would be a negative and a negative 35x. So this cancels out, and we have negative 36x minus 84. And we got to do our recipe one more time. This time, though, we're going to divide negative 36x by 3x. So go ahead and take the negative 36x divided by 3x. Type that in your calculator. So your x's are going to cancel. Type in negative 36 divided by 3. Negative 12, good. We're going to put that on the hood. Step 2, take that negative 12 and multiply it by the 3x plus 7. So we're going to distribute and distribute. So if you take negative 12 times 3, and then you're going to take negative 12 times 7. So go ahead in a minute, put that in your calculators, and see what you get. So negative 12 times 3 is negative 36x. And then negative 12 times 7, is that negative 84? So when I slide it over, though, I'm going to do a change. So that becomes a positive and a positive. And we end with a remainder of 0. All right, so now your last step is to set both of these equal to 0. Both that I have highlighted in pink. So both of your answers will be fractions this time. So we're going to take that 3x plus 7, set that equal to 0, and 5x minus 12, set that equal to 0. So for the first one, we have to subtract the 7. And we have to divide by 3. For the second equation, what do I have to do first to solve the second one? Do I subtract 12 or add 12 first? Who says add 12? Yeah, we're going to add it. And then divide it by 5. And just leave them as a fraction. You don't have to write them as the decimals. Over here in the box, we're going to put our two solutions, which is negative 7/3 and positive 12/5. Go ahead, take out homework 4. Did you pick up homework 4? Can I see it real quick? Thank you. All right, so I want everyone to do number 3. That's all you can do today. So after today, you should have 1, 2, and 3 finished. And remember that this homework assignment is due on Monday. So just do number 3. And if you need help, you can come up to the desk and I can work with you.